All right, here it is. So for those who watched a few episodes ago, I introduced this HJ45 as a paddock find. It was sitting in a paddock for 7 years and pretty much abandoned. And it was close to my area, so I had been looking for one of these for a while and came across this, jumped on it because it's in pretty good nick for something that's been sitting outside for a while. So for those who don't know, these are Toyota Land Cruisers 40 series. This is a HJ45, but it's had some mods to it. But essentially, it's pretty much just an old farm ute. And I'm going to be using it as a farm ute, but I've got to get it running first. So really, the breakdown of this ute is that the person that bought it did some changes to it. So a popular change on these is to put a 5-speed from a 75 series and also to upgrade the engine from the H to either a 12 HT or a 2H. In this case, it was a 2H from a 75 series as well, and also the 2 diffs. So there's got the disc brake front end and just the standard diff at the back. The handbrakes in the transfer case, and that's pretty much it. So really the things that were missing on it were the radiator. From what I could see, the extractor bolts had 2 C's bolts in it, and I'll show you that quickly. So yeah, 2H engine, it's needs a good clean up, but it's all there. The radiator's just in situ there. So issues with these is the fan shrouds with the pulley, with the harmonic balancer, with the power pump pulley, and these don't clear. So you have to trim the back of the fan and to make that clear the pulley, or find a different single row harmonic balancer with a 1 pulley, which is, they're rare as unicorns. So yeah, the way to do it is trim the back evenly for the fan. And the radiator, I'm pretty sure that's an original 4-core radiator. Going to change that's the fuel filter, the oil filters down there, get a new battery, general check of all the hoses and things like that. And then she should be right to start. The annoying thing on this thing is it's got seized extractor bolts that have snapped off inside the actual block, so they need to come out. And the biggest thing that I didn't actually see when I was doing it was that it's missing the front drive shaft, because when you're when you're building or conversion to a 5-speed, it requires that you do a customized front drive shaft, because the distance are different between the 4-speed and the 5-speed. So I have to get a custom drive shaft. All these things that I didn't actually look at when I was buying the thing. Everything else after a wash is pretty good. Interior's seen better days, but for all those that have seen these before, it's not too bad, really, considering it's been outside for a while. You can easily tidy these up. It's got the original steel roof, which are once again pretty rare these days, and without a lot of rust. And there's not a lot of rust in the roof as well. The sills are pretty good. There's a little bit at the front, but I can easily fix that. So all in all, it's a pretty sound vehicle. Just needs to get running. So this episode's all about, can I get this old Paddock find HJ45 back into running order and get started? So I'm going to start by pretty much starting to fix the drive shaft, and then we'll go from there. All right, so stage 1, I've decided to tackle the custom drive shaft first. So I found one of the local guys where I live had an old 55 series drive shaft that was lying in a paddock for 25 years. And he reckons it might have the same couplings as the 45 series. So anyway, I grabbed it, took it over, lined it up, and lo and behold, they actually do match up. They're the same. And believe it or not, this is actually in remarkable condition, considering that it had been lying in a paddock exposed for 25 years. Didn't even need to rebuild the joints on it. So anyway, I took it to Morrison's Drive Shafts in Bendigo. He's a great bloke, did a great job. I measured it at around about 795 from one flange to the other. And yeah, he gives you around about an inch play either way. So you don't have to be millimetre perfect on it. Painted it, did it up, and looks brand new. So that is the first stage done. So at least now I can have four-wheel drive. And it looks bloody good in the process for if I need to use it for roadworthy down the track. So the next stage now that's done is to bolt it on, and then we'll have a look at maybe the extractors, I reckon. All right, so back out to the Land Cruiser. I'll put a wide angle. So I'm going to install the custom drive shaft at the front. And yeah, I briefly showed you before. So we've got one flange there and another just tucked up. So there's a little bit of a cross-member plate here for the gearbox that people said that it can hit. So it's on a bit of an angle. So not knowing if that is going to fit or not, I'm just going to try and install it, and hopefully it misses hitting it. One way of getting around it, so this usually goes at the front, but you can actually install that at the rear. Gives you more clearance. You're not meant to, but apparently it doesn't alter the way the thing works. So if it does hit, I'll just do it like that. So problem number 2 with this ute, the ignition. So basically when the bloke rolled it off the truck, it seems like this barrel's stuffed. And I've tried everything. I've sat here for literally hours trying to turn that key. Try to poke in this little depressed button here to slide it out, but I can only get it so far. And it won't budge. So essentially the key is worn out. I've got a new key cut. It still wouldn't work. And yeah, so I have resorted to having to get a new barrel. All right, so here's the key I was given. There's the key that I cut off this key, thinking that it might be able to work. And essentially it's in lock position now. This will not do anything. I tried the other key. I was thinking maybe I've got these keys mixed up at some point, but it's definitely the set of keys. There's no other keys. These are the keys that came in with it. So what you can do, if you can get this to accessories position, you depress that little button there, which is a little rod. You can sort of see it in there. And if you put like a punch hole, or some people would say drill it out, but you don't need to drill it. You can just literally put a punch in there, push it down, give her a bit of a hammer. And if it's in the accessories position, this will literally pop out. I'll give you a demonstration. All right, so I've just got this little punch here. Yeah, so push it in like that and see it starts to come out. But I can't get it any further than that. You can see that little rod there, just on the side. So that pops into that hole, and that secures the barrel inside the chamber. But if you don't have it in accessories position, there's obviously another latch or something in here that's stopping it from coming all the way out, which is a pain in the ass. So the only way to get it out is to drill this barrel out and wreck the lock. From what all the research that I've seen and done, that is the only way. So I'm going to have to wreck this lock. I've come to terms with that now, and I've had to buy a replacement lock, and they aren't cheap. Part number, it says it's a genuine replacement part. It's $150. Now I don't really know if I'm going to wreck this thing or not. Like, I don't want to damage the actual barrel, but now I'm just going to, first attempt is to try and do a screwdriver. If you get a large screwdriver and hammer it in, then you essentially just wreck the pins, and then you can just bypass that locking mechanism, use your punch, and then hopefully it should come out. So I'm going to try that. All right, so I've got a feeling I've just ruined that lock for no reason. I was just ramming that in. You can see in there that it was in the lock position, and if you actually put that in and turn it, that's the accessories position there. So it's got a spring load. So anyway, I'm going to try and put the new one in now, and hopefully it slides in nicely. So that first start didn't go to plan. I started it and I needed the jump leads to actually get it going. And then I couldn't bloody shut the thing off. So it did start, turned over, started. Then I couldn't shut it off. I turned the key back to lock. And the thing was still going. I was like, fuck, what do I do? So yeah, then I was like, shit, running around panicking. And then I found out that after much duress, this was off. So I put a rag in here and actually ended up cutting the fuel line, just waited for it to run out of fuel. So after doing some research on it, I found out that the EDIC controller, which is this thing here, which usually has a push rod connected to here, and that lever's in and out basically by this thing here, and it goes up and connects up there somewhere. So essentially when you turn the key off, that solenoid circuit will turn, and that will lever this to go like that and shut the fuel off. And then when it's started up, this fuel pushes forward and releases it to the fuel out, and then goes into the center to regulate the fuel. This a classic old farm fix I've read. Yeah, one of these is on the farm. This EDIC controller goes. Get the old cable, route the cable like they've done through here, through there, down into the firewall, and the oldie couple of bolts. Pull that. Engine shuts off. So, you know, pretty manual, but it still works, so it's fine. I can just either buy a new EDIC controller, or while it's on the property, I'll just get a proper kind of pull knob like that and connect it in and just put a big stop on it. So, yeah, the engine seemed to tick over all right. So since then, I've done a few more things. One of them being I zip tied the old radiator in, just for now. I want to get this going for the weekend, so I'll take it down to the car show, just for a bit of fun. Yeah, so that, and then I've just bolted the radiator in there, so you can see, put the new belt on. So I just undid the alternator there with the two bolts, slid that forward, tensioned that up, put the pulley on, and got two new radiator hoses to the top and bottom. Couldn't find the exact ones, or the guy was too lazy to find them, so I just got something close and cut them. And I bought some extractor bolts from eBay and bolted them on and siliconed the gaskets on, because as you know, there's a couple of seized bolts in there, and just to sort of get this thing running, thought I'll just put them in, and I got a local mate to help me. Yeah, so they're pretty secure. Down the track, if I go to register it, I'll have to obviously drill them out properly, but for now around the property, that's fine. It's got some cooling. It doesn't have the fan though. That's the next thing that I've got to do. So I've repaired the fuel line as well. Got a battery in there. It's got, as you know, a shut-off valve. So when that's down, it's not starting. And then that circuit, it can start. So that's good. We're not using it, just turn it down and it doesn't waste your battery. The radiator does have a little leak in there, unfortunately. So I'm gonna have to put some kind of epoxy kneaded stuff in there, or eventually get a radiator. I think it's got a leak halfway down as well. Yeah, I've just been running it without the fan just for short periods of time and it's fine. Next stage is this fan needs to go in. Basically it's really tight. If you put it sort of back to there, you got, you know, a good sort of inch. So I'm going to have to trim the back of these blades to clear that pulley down there, as you can sort of see. So the backs of the blades, apparently this is a pretty standard kind of thing to do. Trim about 15 to 20 mil off the back of those blades and yeah, see if it fits. So anyway, I'm going to try and trim those off and we'll see if we can fit it in. And that way it's got some kind of fan. I have cut the backs trimmed the backs off those of each fan blade, about 15 mil. May have to do a little bit more, but I just wanted to test fit it. This little clutch here, or the clutch and the arm extending out, I did buy another one of those, which apparently was for a HJ47, I think, but the arbor is actually too short for the arbor of the pulley, so it's sort of sitting and wobbling. So this one's a little bit shallower and seats a lot better inside on top of that pulley. So I've reverted back to the old one. Yeah, the way it is, it doesn't go all the way in. So I'm just putting some spaces there. I don't know why. I guess this is what happens when you try and fit an engine that doesn't belong in here. Well, certainly didn't belong when this came out, at least anyway. Later on, they brought them out. So I'm just putting some spaces, some washer spaces, and that should give me enough meat on the end of those threads to then put a nut on, clamp it up. Hopefully that pulls the pulley back flush against the engine, and we'll have some clearance. So see how we go. So I've got that fan on. I've put some spaces there, some washers, cut the back of the fan and just done a test. It's a little bit of a skew-off angle, but it's passing that, or clearing that pulley. Not by much, but enough. And yeah, also clearing the front pretty easily. So yeah, it's not pretty, and certainly wouldn't be adequate for a roadworthy, but for a farm ute, it'll be fine. So now comes the time to see if I can get this thing running. So get the battery sorted, make sure that the isolator switch is on. Yeah, I've topped up the oil and the fuel. So seeing that it cranked over before, I'm pretty sure it's going to crank over again. I couldn't get it into gear though, which is interesting. So someone said unless it's in the four-wheel drive, might have been in neutral. So unless the four-wheel drive is engaged in two-wheel or four-wheel drive, it won't actually work. So I'm going to give that a go as well. But first I'm going to try and start it up and see how we go. Walk over here and have a go. Oh. Okay, so make sure that the four-wheel drive is in two-wheel drive. Clutch out, glow it for a bit. So this new key's got a glow, backwards glow like the old style. The newer ones came in later on where you didn't need that. Glow it for a bit. All right, that should do. Give it a crack. And that's why these things are so famous. I mean, listen to that. Unbelievable. Bolting those extractors up has really eliminated that noise that was obnoxiously loud earlier when those extractors went bolted on. Fan belt's a little bit wobbly. We'll probably tighten that up a bit. The only thing I've got to finish now is the putting a bit of epoxy on the top of this radiator to stop it from leaking. And take it for a bloody drive. So I'll see if the gearbox is all good and the brakes are all good, which is always a bit risky. But we'll set up now and I'll take it for a bit of a spin. All right, moment of truth. All right, so it's in, let's turn this clutch down a little bit. Here we go. Pretty rough as guts, but drives. Woo! It's made my day. I bloody didn't think I was going to get this thing going. So brakes work. It's awesome. So now you can actually turn it off with this little bolt, and this will get the EDIC controller, shut the fuel off. Down she goes. It's got no park brake, but chuck it in gear. Well, there you go. Success. See you next episode.